Hey, Mark Bossert here from Top Local Lead Generation. We're talking mold with Mr. David Fairbairn of Fairbairn Inspections in Vancouver. How are you doing today, David?
I'm good, Mark. Just as excited as you are about talking about mold.
So, toxic black mold, myths and facts. So, what are the myths and facts about toxic black mold?
Toxic black mold. You know, we've talked about it before, Mark. You hear about it in the news, you see it on TV. Toxic black mold. Everyone's scared of it. Nobody wants it in their house. But what is it? You know, I'd like to show you exactly what it is, where it comes from, and what it's actually called. Because there's a good chance you've never heard of the actual name of the mold. So again, I'm going to try screen sharing here. Just let me know if you see the pictures come up on your screen. Just give it a second here. Try this again. Okay, in about 3 seconds you should see the photo come up on the screen. Do you see that?
It hasn't come up yet. We got a bit of connection issue. Here we go. There we
Okay,
go.
there we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about with toxic black mold is that it's not actually called toxic black mold. If you ask a scientist, you know, what's toxic black mold, they're probably going to say, oh, you're talking about Stachybotrys. So I've got the word up on the screen on the top left there. It's called Stachybotrys. Now, Stachybotrys is a genus of mold. Mold is broken down into genus, which is the family of mold, and it's also subdivided at that point into different species. So we've got Stachybotrys, which is a genus of mold, and there's about 50 different types of it. It is notable for two things. It's extremely slimy and grows in extremely wet conditions. So if we see Stachybotrys in a home, usually we have a fairly major moisture problem. It's not just a little bit of shower mold. We're talking about floods, you know, huge roof leaks, massive, you know, ventilation problems, grow-ups, things like that are actually going to cause this to grow. So this is the worst of the worst. There's 50 different types of it, and the one that we're talking about today in particular that is called toxic black mold by the media is called S. chartarum. And the S stands for Stachybotrys. So Stachybotrys is the genus, and Chartarum is the species. It's this particular type of mold that has a very bad reputation in homes. So S. chartarum, extremely slimy. It is black. In some cases, it's actually not black. I've seen it where it is sort of a fuzzy gray color. It also shows up blue sometimes. This picture was taken in Surrey. It's a shed that was leaking for about 15 years, and they closed the doors and sealed it all up. And we can see the amount of heavy visible growth growing in the OSB sheathing on the ceiling. Okay, so this came back as S. chartarum. You can see that we also have another type of mold which tested as a different type. We can see it's sort of white and fluffy on the bottom of this luggage. Okay, so we have some pretty heavy growth here. The history of toxic black mold is that in the 1990s, the early 90s, it got a very bad reputation when I believe an infant actually died in the United States of, I believe it was pulmonary hemorrhaging. And they did an autopsy and they found that the infant had breathed in some S. chartarum spores. And that's why, you know, the alarm was sent up that this is a particularly toxic type of mold, and ever since then it's had a terrible reputation. Now, the CDC later did a study that said, actually, we found no link between Stachybotrys chartarum spores and hemorrhaging, but nobody's taking a chance, and if you have this type of mold, you need to remediate it basically immediately. You don't want to take any chances with this because it is technically toxic. Okay, so this is a close-up of the S. chartarum This is a spore cluster where it's releasing spores into the air. And as mold has evolved over the years, it is getting more and more aggressive because there are other types of mold that it has to compete with. And this is basic evolutionary biology where the strongest wins. And what mold has done, particularly Stachybotrys, is that it evolved what's called mycotoxins. Mycotoxins were originally intended to kill off other types of competing molds, but in some cases, and in this case particularly true, is that it will cause problems in humans. So it's actually toxic to people. What we're finding is that we're getting respiratory problems. It's been in very loose ways it's been connected to cancer, although I don't know if that's actually confirmed or not. You know, the CDC has been doing studies on this. You know, you should educate yourself on this. It's been linked to cancer. It's been linked to a lot of allergy problems, you know, respiratory problems, itchy, watery eyes, skin infections, and just, you know, a host of other, you know, health problems. Okay, so usually we see this where we have a flood situation. So we've got a lot of water leakage. This is actually an addition, a room built onto the back of a house in Burnaby. And what happened here was they built it on the side of a hill, and basically the slope of the soil directed all the water into the wall cavity. And it basically rotted out the room from the outside in. And they also left it sealed up all summer. So this had no ventilation at all. Mold like this really thrives in very stale, damp air. And this is what the conditions that we actually created in this home were perfect for Stachybotrys growth. We can see the amount of damage to the drywall sort of at the top center of the picture, where it's taken, you know, deep root. And I mean, the drywall was so soft you could just push your finger right through it. So at this point, we need a full remediation done. Now, when we talk about remediation, we're talking about a couple things. You know, if you hire a contractor who's not familiar with mold, they may just go and remove the visible mold, but they might not completely remove, you know, the source of the moisture. They might not remove the invisible mold, and they may not do a job that will last a long time. So you have to be very, very careful once you see this, especially if you test it and it comes back as Stachybotrys, that you call a mold remediation company who is certified and has a lot of experience with dealing with this. So the answer is, now normally I say, okay, you know, if you have a bit of you know, mold growth in one spot, you're going to want to remove it with a store-bought product. If we come across Stachybotrys, we need to actually call a professional. We don't want to do this ourselves. It's not worth the potential health risks. You know, you and your family are living in the house. You don't want to be playing around with this stuff. It's really, really nasty mold. Okay, so the answer is usually a full remediation. So we're bringing in the crew with, we have, you know, respirators. These are N95 respirators. They filter out microbiological, you know, the spores and things like that. We've got our suits on, and we're actually doing, as we go, we're encapsulating the mold. So we're sealing off the area. We are, you know, we're sealing every bit of material that comes out of that room. We're completely sealing it off and disposing of it safely. We are testing as we go. You know, if we are removing all this mold and we come back and we do a post-remediation air test, and we test the air and we find out that there's still some spores left over after a certain period of time, we need to go even further and just wipe it out. And that usually involves just, you know, more moisture testing, more material removal. So in many cases, you're actually removing a good section of the building to replace it. And in some cases, it is treatable with certain products that usually at this point, you know, these are professional products that you're not going to find at a hardware store. You're going to, you know, you're going to have this company come in and do it properly. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to do with Stachybotrys, and that's sort of an introduction to this material. So, you know, just sort of drive the point home. If you have this material, get it tested. Find out what you have in your home. If it is Stachybotrys, you need to call a certified mold company. call us 604-395-2795. We can assist with the issue. The number one thing is safety, so don't cut corners, don't take any chances. If you do see it, call us right away. We can not only assist with testing and sampling, but we can also come back at the end of the job, make sure that it's completely gone, and make sure that you're not breathing in anything nasty.
Awesome job, David. So one of the things I think to drive home is that this is not treatable by your little spray bottle of bleach and or bleach solution and pretending like you could just wipe it away. This is nasty, health injurious stuff that you need to have professionals look after for you. And like David was saying, his company is certified in mold remediation, so they're the guys to call. FairbairnInspections.com, or call them at 604-395-2795. Thanks a lot, David.
Hey, thanks, Mark. See you later.